Domain authority, boosting B2B email credibility. Why domain authority now decides cold email results. If your cold outreach looks solid but replies are soft, the problem is often trust, not talent. Inboxes are processing about 376.4 billion emails per day, and roughly 45.6% of global traffic is spam. So mailbox providers assume guilty until proven legitimate. In that environment, your domain authority becomes the gatekeeper between sent and seen. For B2B teams running outbound as a primary growth lever, domain authority isn't an IT checkbox, it's a pipeline multiplier. When global inbox placement sits around 83.5%, that's roughly 1 in 6 legitimate messages never reaching the inbox, even before you factor in messaging quality. If your team depends on consistent meetings, protecting deliverability is one of the highest ROI moves you can make. This is especially true for organizations choosing between building in-house and partnering with a B2B sales agency or SDR agency. Whether you run internal SDRs or an outsourced sales team, the rules are the same. Mailbox providers reward predictable, authenticated, low complaint sending behavior. When we operate as a cold email agency within our broader sales outsourcing model, we treat domain authority as shared infrastructure that sales and marketing manage together. What domain authority means for email, not SEO. In email, domain authority is not the SEO metric that predicts rankings. It's the practical trust score mailbox providers infer from your domain's authentication, history, engagement, and complaint patterns, plus the human credibility your brand earns when recipients recognize and accept your outreach. Both machine trust and human trust matter because the same email can be filtered by algorithms or rejected by the buyer with a single spam click. Think of email domain authority as a reputation layer that compounds over time. If your emails earn opens, replies, and low bounces, you get more inbox placement. More inbox placement creates more engagement, and more engagement improves future placement. That feedback loop is why deliverability improvements often outperform copy tweaks, especially for outbound sales agency teams trying to drive meetings at scale. The goal isn't to beat filters, it's to look and behave like a trusted business sender. That means aligning technical identity, SPF, DKIM, DMARC, consistent from domains, with disciplined outreach strategy, tight ICP targeting, reasonable volume, and clear opt-out. When sales and marketing run separate programs without shared guardrails, the domain pays the price for everyone's experimentation. 2025 Deliverability Benchmarks, the real bar to clear. Most teams track delivered, but delivered can include the spam folder, which does nothing for pipeline. Benchmarks show B2B email delivery rates around 98.16%, yet typical cold email performance still hinges on inbox placement because open rates average about 27.7% and reply rates around 5.1%. If you lose visibility before the open, you're starving your sequence of the only thing that creates meetings: attention. Microsoft-hosted mailboxes have become particularly unforgiving for B2B prospecting. Office 365 inbox placement reportedly dropped from about 77.4% to 50.7% year over year, a decline of 26.7 percentage points, and Outlook Hotmail inbox placement has been measured around 26.8%. If your ICP includes finance, healthcare, manufacturing, or enterprise IT, this isn't theoretical. This is your day-to-day funnel. Use benchmarks to set realistic expectations and to justify process changes internally. A cold calling agency can help diversify channel mix, but email remains the preferred vendor channel for roughly 77 to 83% of B2B buyers. So improving email trust is still a priority even when you add cold calling services. The teams that win don't send more, they earn more inbox time. Technical setup, authentication, domains, and ramp policies. Email authority starts with authentication because providers need a verifiable identity before they can assign a stable reputation. Only 18.2% of the top 10 million domains reportedly have a valid DMARC record, and just 7.6% enforce quarantine or reject, leaving most brands exposed to spoofing and reputation damage. If you're relying on SPF alone, you're telling mailbox providers and attackers that your domain is easy to impersonate. We treat SPF, DKIM, and DMARC as non-negotiables because authenticated domains are cited as about 2.7 times more likely to reach the inbox than unauthenticated senders. Practically, that means auditing every sending domain and subdomain, confirming alignment between the from domain and your authenticated setup, and moving from DMARC monitoring to enforcement once legitimate sources are validated. This is the kind of foundation that lets a sales development agency scale outreach without constantly starting over after reputation dips. Next is sending architecture and ramp discipline. Using your primary corporate domain for aggressive cold outbound is a common self-inflicted wound because any complaint spike can bleed into newsletters, transactional mail, and even sensitive client communication. A safer approach is separating functions, transactional versus marketing versus outbound, onto distinct but branded domains, and ramping new domains over 4 to 6 weeks with conservative per-inbox caps, often 20 to 40 cold emails per day, until inbox placement and replies stabilize. Deliverability is the hidden conversion rate. When trust goes up, every send becomes more valuable, and when trust drops, even perfect copy can't save the pipeline. Behavioral signals that build or break reputation. Mailbox providers judge behavior as aggressively as they judge DNS records. If recipients ignore you, delete you, or mark you as spam, your reputation score slides, even if your authentication is perfect. That's why outbound success isn't just a tooling problem, it's a targeting and messaging discipline problem that lives inside your day-to-day SDR execution. List hygiene is the easiest behavioral win with the fastest payback. Verifying addresses before a launch, immediately suppressing hard bounces, and pruning chronically unengaged contacts helps protect engagement signals that algorithms use to decide placement. A clean list also protects your team's time because SDRs shouldn't be chasing ghost inboxes when they could be talking to real buyers. Sequence design is another reputation lever most teams underuse. Longer, repetitive sequences can feel like harassment, which increases complaints and opt-outs, especially in Microsoft ecosystems that are already sensitive. We prefer tight, value-driven outreach, often 2 to 3 strong touches with a clear opt-out, because fewer, better sends typically outperform spray and follow-up volume in both inbox placement and replies. Common mistakes and the fixes that actually work. The fastest way to torch a new domain is to blast volume before you've earned trust. New or barely warmed domains start with little reputation history, and sudden spikes in cold outreach look indistinguishable from spam campaigns. The fix is operational, not inspirational. Define a documented ramp policy, enforce per-inbox volume caps, and pause sending when bounce or complaint signals trend the wrong way. Another costly mistake is treating SPF as good enough and skipping DKIM and DMARC enforcement. Without DKIM signatures and a DMARC policy, spoofing risk rises and mailbox providers have less confidence in your identity, which can hurt placement long before you notice. If you manage multiple tools, CRM, sequencer, help desk, billing, DMARC reporting also helps you catch unknown senders before they become a reputation incident. Finally, many teams try to buy their way out with another warm-up tool while keeping the same bad strategy. Tools can support consistency, but they cannot fix poor ICP definition, irrelevant offers, or copy that triggers spam complaints. Whether you run in-house or outsource sales to an SDR agency, you need shared rules for who you contact, how often you follow up, and when you stop. Optimization, monitoring, testing, and multi-domain execution. Once fundamentals are in place, monitoring is what keeps you from drifting into trouble. Set up the native reputation tools for your ecosystem: Google Postmaster Tools, Microsoft SNDS, and relevant sender dashboards. Then, review reputation and complaint indicators weekly. Treat it like you would a revenue dashboard. Small dips are manageable, but ignored dips become compounding damage. Testing should focus on the variables that affect reputation and response at the same time. That includes offer clarity, personalization quality, and segment-level targeting, because higher relevance improves engagement signals that boost future placement. When we run outbound, we combine rigorous list-building services with continuous A/B testing so we can protect reputation while improving meeting yield, instead of trading one for the other. At scale, multi-domain planning becomes a strategic advantage. DMARC adoption among top domains has reportedly grown to about 47.7% by 2025. But many domains still run monitoring-only policies, which leaves a gap between "we have DMARC" and "we are protected." A mature outbound sales agency approach is to segment domains by function, enforce stricter policies where appropriate, and keep cold outreach isolated so your core brand operations remain resilient. Next steps: a simple operating cadence for sales and marketing. Start with a domain health audit this week. Inventory every domain used for outbound, marketing, and transactional mail. Then confirm SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are configured correctly and aligned with your from domains. This is especially important if you've experimented with multiple email tools over time, because orphaned senders can quietly break alignment and erode trust. Then, formalize rules your team can follow without debate. Document volume caps, ramp schedules for new domains, and the conditions that trigger an automatic pause, for example, bounce spikes or elevated complaints. If you're hiring SDRs or working with sales outsourcing partners, bake these policies into onboarding so deliverability doesn't depend on who happens to be on the keyboard. Finally, protect focus by assigning clear ownership. Sales should own sequencing discipline and ICP adherence. Marketing or ops should own authentication and monitoring. And leadership should treat domain authority as a shared asset with real revenue impact. When we support teams as an SDR agency and outbound partner, we keep these responsibilities explicit so you get consistent inbox placement, consistent conversations, and a healthier pipeline month after month.